All right, let's dive into one of the wildest stories to ever come out of the sports betting world. It's a story about a game that had bettors on the edge of their seats, a game that made some people a whole lot of money. And then, poof, it just vanished into thin air.
I mean, it sounds like a trick question, right? Can you actually put down real money, make a real bet on a sporting event that literally never happened? You'd think no way. But the answer is a shocking yes. And today, we're going to unpack exactly how this impossible scam was pulled off.
So, let's set the stage. We're looking at a case that, for all intents and purposes, seemed like a totally normal, maybe a little obscure preseason friendly. But as you're about to see, this so-called match would end up going down in betting history for all the wrong reasons. Okay, so here are the details. On February 17th, 2015, we've got this match scheduled in Turkey. It's listed on all the big betting sites. It's got live odds ticking away. Everything looks legit. But here's the catch. There were no cameras, no video feed. The only way to follow along was through the play-by-play text updates.
And just to be clear, this wasn't some random Sunday league game. No. We're talking about Shakhtar Sologorsk and Slutsk. These are professional, top-division clubs from Belarus. And that's what made it so believable. This air of legitimacy is exactly why bookies and bettors all over the world bought into it. So, the match kicks off, and for everyone glued to their screens, the drama starts to unfold. And let me tell you, it was perfectly scripted to create a frenzy of in-play betting.
The people behind this created the perfect story. You know, just like you'd expect, the favorite, Shakhtar, they go up in the first half. But then, after halftime, the underdog Slutsk pulls off this unbelievable comeback. They score 2 goals and snatch a 2-1 win. It's the exact kind of high-drama narrative that gets people betting like crazy during the game.
And this was the bait. At halftime, with Slutsk down a goal, the odds for them to actually win the match shot up to 12.50. Think about that. For anyone who bet on that comeback, the potential payout was absolutely massive. It was a classic underdog story, just too tempting to resist.
So the final whistle supposedly blows. Everything seems normal. The winners get their money, the result is official. But this is exactly where the story takes a hard left turn into the twilight zone.
Now, to make this whole thing airtight, the final 2-1 score was posted on the official websites of both clubs. So now you have 2 supposedly separate sources confirming the result. The bookmakers see this, they do their job, they settle the bets, and they pay out the winnings. Everything's done. Case closed, right? Not quite. There was one rather enormous problem that was about to blow this whole thing wide open. That's right. The entire thing, the kickoff, the goals, the dramatic comeback, the 2-1 final score, it was all a complete fabrication. Those 2 teams never even stepped onto the same field that day. It was a ghost, a phantom created for one reason, to cheat the betting markets.
As you can imagine, the fallout was pure chaos. Slutsk immediately claimed their website was hacked. Shakhtar, they just stayed silent, no official comment. The bookmakers, they scrambled to void all the bets and refund people. But here's the kicker. They couldn't get back all the money they had already paid out to the winners, who, of course, were the scammers themselves.
So this just raises a huge question. How is something like this even possible? How can a totally made-up game get treated as a real event by the entire global betting industry? Well, what happened here really exposed a massive blind spot in the system. And there's actually a name for this kind of scam. The industry calls it a ghost game. It's an event that only exists as data points on a screen created by manipulators who feed a completely fake live data stream to the bookmakers, tricking them into thinking it's real. And you might think this is a 1 in a million fluke, something out of a heist movie, but it's not. The industry has actually documented 4 major ghost games in recent history, and every single one was designed to exploit the system in pretty much the same way. So, here's the core of the problem. It comes down to something called black holes. See, there are thousands of matches from smaller leagues and less popular sports offered for betting every single day. The vast majority of them have no TV coverage, no video stream. This forces bookmakers to trust data from scouts on the ground or from team websites, sources that, as we just saw, can absolutely be faked. It's a genuinely risky world out there, which really means that finding a platform you can actually trust is everything. As a resource, if you are looking for a list of the best betting sites in your country with a 300% bonus, you can just search for betplace.us in your browser. Okay,
So we get the risk now. The question is, what can you do about it? How do you, as a bettor, make sure you don't get caught in one of these traps? Well, the good news is there are a few really simple rules that can keep you safe. Here's how you can bet smarter. First, just bet on what you know. Stick to the sports and the leagues that you actually follow and understand. Second, if you're betting live, always try to bet on matches that have a live video stream. I mean, if you can see it with your own eyes, you know it's real. And third, just be super careful with those obscure, lower division leagues where solid, verifiable info is hard to come by. Seriously, just sticking to the major leagues on well-known platforms is a huge step in protecting yourself. And speaking of platforms, remember, if you are looking for a list of the best betting sites in your country with a 300% bonus, just search for betplace.us in your browser. This quote from an industry insider really says it all. When there's no camera, there is just no way to be 100% sure a match is actually happening. Even if you have team names, a live score, and the names of the goal scorers, it could all be made up. The risk is always there. At the end of the day, being informed is your best weapon, and using trusted, established sites is just non-negotiable. So as a final reminder on that, if you are looking for a list of the best betting sites in your country with a 300% bonus, you can search for betplace.us in your browser. And that kind of leaves us with this one big nagging question. The story of the Phantom Match is so much more than just a betting scam. It's a powerful reminder that in this digital age, data can be faked and reality itself can be manufactured. It really makes you stop and think, if an entire football match can be faked, what else can be?